following spring, after visiting in Juarez, we went to a charismatic conference in Dallas and again encountered Father Rick. We asked him if he had any special needs we could help him with. He said yes, he had 2 workers that were very tired and needed a place to rest. We told him they could ride home with us and spend however long they wanted. These 2 were Martha Madrana and Sister Linda Kuntz. They spent several weeks with us in Oklahoma, and from then on we knew we were hooked. We knew the Lord was calling us to help the poor, and we thought that would be a good way to spend the rest of our days. We were both in good health and had enough money to live on comfortably. Father Rick wanted me to get a ranch where he could raise food and take it to Juarez. A man by the name of Don Maddox came to Oklahoma about that time and wanted to trade his ranch in Mexico for a farm there. We went out there to look it over, and Father Rick said he thought it would be a good place. So we moved everything down to a double-wide house in the ranch, on the ranch in just south of 3 Rivers on 54 Highway, about 110 miles north of El Paso. I thought we had turned over our farm and would work for the Lord the rest of our lives, but the Lord had a different plan. We had been there 2 or 3 weeks, and I had signed up for insurance on the irrigation equipment. The Farm Bureau office called me and said they couldn't insure the equipment. I told them I had worked with Farm Bureau all my life, helped them with membership work, and was on the board of directors in Oklahoma. They said the problem was that Don Maddox owned the equipment and they could not insure anything that belonged to him because he was a con artist. We realized then who we were dealing with and started checking into the ownership of the land. He only owned part of the land that he sold us, and we decided not to go through with the deal. We had an attorney, he had an attorney by the name of Dave Emmert, who was handling what they call the Maddox Trust. He thought Don was making the millions he said he was, so was going along with him on his dealings. The attorney knew things weren't right in Maddox, as Maddox had 26 lawsuits pending against them, and he went along with him anyway. They sued us for $1 4/10 million. We had to hire 2 attorneys, Ricky Fuel and a Christian from El Paso, and Neil Weinbrenner, a Jew from Las Cruces, to defend us in this lawsuit in federal court. It took nearly 2 years to get the lawsuit to trial. I was on the stand for 7 hours straight the first day. Don Maddox was on the stand the next day, and our attorney told us that we'd lost the case. They said that his lies sounded better to them than my truth. I told the attorneys we hadn't lost the case because the Lord told us he will change the judge's mind. Plus, he gave us about 16 or 17 other messages that was as strong and equally as comforting, indicating that we would come out of this all right. Father Rick had his prayer group praying for us, and we knew the Lord would answer their prayers. The other people involved with the Maddox were put on the witness stand, and they testified to the same facts I gave. It was altogether different from what the Maddoxes had said. About a month later, the judgment was handed, and the decree said The plaintiff, which means the Maddoxes, takes nothing. What a victory we had from the Lord. During these 2 years we spent in New Mexico, the Maddoxes were living in our farm in Oklahoma, and we were living on the ranch north of Tularosa. Some of the soil on the ranch was good, but most of it was terrible, and the water was too salty to be used for crop irrigation. We saw mountain lions, coyotes, rattlesnakes, armadillos, and our dog had an encounter with a porcupine while there. We spent about 4 hours every day or more praying the rosary and reading the Bible and other religious books. Nearly every week we went to El Paso for the day of prayer for all those who worked for Our Lady's Youth Center and the Lord's Ranch. One day when we were praying the rosary at the ranch, we had stopped to decide what each decade would be prayed for. I looked up and there was Christ's mother standing in the hallway. Where Dorothy was sitting, she couldn't see the spot where Our Lady stood. She was standing not on the floor, but on something about a foot or so higher. She had the brightest gold hair I had ever seen in my life. On the sides of her hair was long waves, 4 or 5 inches long, and they'd go out and then come back. In our church in Tularosa, there were 2 Indian ladies that had big waves in their hair where it hung down down the back. Our Lady had blue eyes and a light, fair skin, and she had a gray dress on with lots of folds in it. It was long and covered her feet. She had a cloak over it. I believe it was blue. It was startling, and I couldn't figure out what was happening. The only thing she said to me, and it wasn't words that came to my ears, but it came in my heart. She said, "Up here, you won't have problems like that." I thought this was really something weird, so I had better look down and see where I am. I looked down at the floor, and when I looked up again, she was gone. I began to cry and tried to tell Dorothy. I said, "I just saw the Blessed Virgin right there." It was hard to believe then, but I know now from the reports from Medjugorje and Lubbock, Texas, that she quite often appears in pictures with a light gray gown on, with blue eyes and a light complexion. That is exactly what I saw. These pictures they take quite often show her in the background of the picture along the side of somebody. We have talked to several people there. This has happened, and we bought a picture showing her in it. What I was what I saw corresponds with those things that are going on right now.